What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you, but with a catch because this will be our first auction draft of the 2024 fantasy football season. We will be doing this on FantasyPros. It will be a 12-team full PPR auction mock. Our roster: one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. And while we wait for it to kick off, a quick reminder: if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comments section, your thoughts, along with any questions surrounding the auction draft process or anything else. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get into it. And as you can see, the first nomination has been made. It is Puka Nacua. And, we're going to go through this process one pick at a time, but it will be a little bit quicker since we can do so here with some added fast-paced bonuses. So I'm already taking a look at some of these nominations. The first one was Puka Nacua for $47. The suggested value was a little bit under that. And from what I remember, I believe that there's some pretty good value on the wide receivers, whereas running backs typically go for a little bit more than their suggested value. This is going to be different from platform to platform, and we're going to do a little bit more formal of a auction draft process on ESPN and Yahoo later on. But I always think it's a fun exercise to do one of these first ones here on FantasyPros because, again, it's a faster process. We can speed it up as opposed to this being a 40, 45, 50-minute video. It can be a process that, about 20, 25 minutes, 30 max. We still talk some auction draft strategies. We still give you some thoughts on some of our favorite players, and we kind of take it from there. So, I got in on the bidding here of Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think it is a tremendous value. We got him for $36. His suggested value was $38. And here I'm going to nominate Christian McCaffrey for several reasons because, typically what I advise people to do in these auction drafts is nominate very, very expensive players early on so that you can get them to waste their funds and their money instead of yours. Now, I always give the caveat that, nominate players that you don't want. Christian McCaffrey, I definitely would want on the squad, but he's going to be very, very expensive. I've already got Jahmyr Gibbs at a really good value. I mean, look, McCaffrey's going for $73. I got Jahmyr Gibbs for half that price. So I'll take that all day, every day. And, I think there's still some really good value to be had. I can even go ahead and pass on Christian McCaffrey so he can go somewhere else. Now, I do want to point out here, via this auction draft setup, everyone starts out with $200 and then, has about 12 spots to fill out. This is going to be different from platform to platform, how much money you start with, but typically it is $200. Now, the one thing that I will say is different in this auction draft process as opposed to the snake draft process is I always say you want to go in an auction draft with a set strategy in mind. You do not want to be switching around from, an aggressive draft mentality to conservative to balance, because the math of the budget management just does not work out there. As opposed to in a snake draft, a typical draft, you want to just have the draft come to you. You don't want to be kind of handicapped by going in with a set approach and living and dying by it. But here it is a little bit different because, it all comes down to how you manage your budget. So right now we're doing well, and as you can see, Tyreek Hill has been nominated. I think we can get somebody else like a Garrett Wilson for much cheaper. Hell, maybe even a Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase, if we can get him for $50, I would be pretty happy. And if we can somehow combine Jamar Chase with Garrett Wilson, I would be over the moon. And then that would definitely put us in a aggressive type of build for our roster here. So the price is already up to $51. Question is, do we want to pull the trigger at 52? I'll pass. Justin Jefferson is next up for nomination. I think Justin Jefferson is somebody that I'm probably going to shy away from, considering that Kirk Cousins is no longer there. So he goes for $50. Now let's see what happens with Amon-Ra St. Brown. For what it is worth, I do have Jahmyr Gibbs, so I don't want to get too heavy on the Detroit Lions offense. Any stacks that I do, I prefer to do at the quarterback position paired with a wide receiver or running back. So as much as I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're going to go ahead and pass on him. And he can go somewhere else. But again, this is the beauty of the auction draft process, specifically here, doing it on FantasyPros. We can speed things up a little bit, and we can put together a decent roster pretty quickly. So here, I was in on the bidding for Bijan Robinson for a little bit, but it's now up to $50, $51. It would have been pretty cool to land both Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. I'm not going to lie to you there, but let's see how this thing pans out. And you know what? I'll throw one more dollar at him. I think Bijan Robinson is worth that top tier investment. So if we get him for $53 again, or I guess 52 technically, a little bit of an overpay, but I do think, like it happens in all auction drafts, you get to a point where, there's going to be position scarcity, and lower valued players are going to go ahead and be going for much more than they should. Here, I think A.J. Brown for $40 could be a decent value, but I really want Garrett Wilson. That's the guy that I'm looking at, so maybe that'll hurt me a little bit, because sometimes you just have to go ahead, and when you see the good value, I always say, you want to nominate players you don't want, and you want to be in a situation where you can dominate the bidding process. But sometimes when there are players that you're hoping last until a little bit longer but are nominated earlier, there's going to be scenarios where they can go for a little bit cheaper sometimes. There's little one-offs where guys that you think would be a little bit more expensive, just people overlook or something like that. And again, every single auction draft has its own little flair to it, because the people that you're drafting with really will dictate how it goes, and how, just by how aggressive they are. And God forbid if you guys both are in on the same player, then that's how bidding wars start. But Jonathan Taylor went for a decent value, not too expensive, $41. But I've already got Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. I want to focus on the wide receiver position. So I'm going to wait on the running back position for a little bit more. And I think I'm probably leaning towards an aggressive strategy here. We've already got Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. When I say aggressive, pretty much means that you're getting multiple first-round type of talents, top-tier guys. And then you're going to be a little bit more, you're going to be a little bit more cautious with the guys you draft afterwards. You're going to be waiting a little bit more to build out the rest of your roster. Here I nominated an expensive player that I don't really want. Here I'm going to just go ahead and probably pass on Devontae Adams. Let's go ahead and pass on Devontae Adams. He goes for $29. Garrett Wilson is the guy that I really want. I mentioned it before. Hopefully I don't have to overpay by a bunch, And again, it really is random. But if I can get him for, oh, we were so close for $36, 2 seconds away, that would have been an absolute steal. But let's see. I imagine this thing will go into, oh, I was going to say to the 40s. And it does. It does. But to me, he's by far and away the best wide receiver left. So, yeah, we're gonna go for it. And let's see. Let's see. I think we can get him for our value for our nominate, or I should say, our winning bid of $47. If we don't, then oh well, we can go get somebody else. So we do end up snagging him. Right now, we've gone very aggressive. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Garrett Wilson. So let's see what the rest of our roster looks like. And boy, oh boy, Kyron Williams is going up to $52. And again, this is what I'm talking about, positional scarcity, $53. Isaiah Pacheco doubling up the price, $44. Okay, well, that's a little bit too expensive for me, considering my the most money I have left is $65, and I have to spend that 9 different ways. So that's about $7 a roster spot. So we're going to pass on a lot of these players. A-Chain is somebody that, I'm not super high on either way. So I'm okay with that. Here, Michael Pittman, I do like him, but for over $30, which is what I imagine he will go for, I'm probably going to look elsewhere. Yeah, so he goes for $29. Marvin Harrison is going to be close. Yeah, already $30. So let's pass on him as well. We're looking for a wide receiver that we can hopefully get for around $20. I really like Drake London, but I don't want to get multiple Atlanta Falcons on the squad. So again, we're going to let somebody else draft him. Let's go ahead and pass. Here, Chris Olave for $38. Well, you know what? I'll turn off fast mode here because it kind of ruins the spontaneity of it. Right, that's part of the auction draft process. You want to see how high it can get, and if anybody snipes you right at the end. But for the sake of having this be a little bit quicker than normal, I'll maybe use it from time to time. You see Saquon Barkley was still left here, and his value is absolutely skyrocketed to $53. As a reminder, I got Bijan Robinson for $52. Saquon is going to go for at least $50, $60. Again, this is the positional scarcity I was telling you guys about. How much money do we have left, by the way? Do we have the least amount of money left? No, there are 2 people that have less money than us. So, I mean, we could be doing better. Nico Collins here is going to go probably for around $30-ish. I'm looking for somebody cheaper. Again, I said low 20s, so let's pass on Nico Collins. We do need some more wide receivers. I'm curious how high Josh Jacobs will go. I think we've gotten to the point in time where some of these middle of the pack running backs are going to be overvalued. So yeah, I mean, close to $40, $36. No, thank you. Let's nominate Jalen Hurts. Let's get some of these quarterbacks out there that I have no interest in paying $28 for. Are you kidding me? So I'm just going to pass, and let's see how much he went for. He went for $30. Yep. Jalen Waddle could be somebody that's intriguing here, a name that sometimes is undervalued. So let's bid $11, 13. I think that he can be a solid wide receiver too. We pay about $20 for him, and I'll be happy. But I don't want to get too crazy because there's, again, still some other wide receivers here later down the line. Maybe a Cooper Kupp that I think could be a good value, but less than $20. Come on now. Yes, we get Jalen Waddle for $19. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's a good value. A solid wide receiver too. So we're looking good. Now we just got to start rounding out quarterback, tight end, some flex, some bench pieces. Now, the downside to obviously being very, very aggressive, your bench won't be the deepest, right? That is the other part of this where, sure, your starting squad is going to be pretty top heavy, but God forbid there's an injury, you're going to have to get pretty creative. Cooper Kupp here is going to go for, I think, pretty good value of $25. Patrick Mahomes, I'm passing on. I think he's going to go in the 20s, $25. Joe Mixon, I bet you he goes for much higher than his suggested value. Wouldn't be shocked if he goes for like $35. It's already at $30. So yeah, we can go ahead and pass on Joe Mixon. We've already got, again, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. Yeah, Mixon went for $37. ETN, I don't mind ETN, but for $35, I don't have that much wiggle room. I have $46 left, right? So at this point, we just have to be patient. We're going to pass on him. Brennan Ayuk, could be a decent flex player, but we're going to have to target maybe like a George Pickens type of deal. Mike Evans is somebody I'm out on at his age, and it being full PPR and just me not trusting Baker. So see a Mike Evans. Trey McBride is somebody that I like. Ooh, but man, is he the first tight end that was nominated? That's what I have to look at. Wow, he was the first tight end that's nominated. That kind of kills us here, I feel like, on the value. If he was one of the later tight ends, we could have gotten him, I think, a lot cheaper. Instead, he goes for $23. Let's bid on Malik Neighbors. I think he can be a rookie that's pretty good for us. But who knows? Who knows? His suggested value is $19. And again, positional scarcity will do some strange things. I'll bid $11 for him and see what happens. If I get him for $11 as my flex play, I'll be pretty happy again, but I doubt it happens. Actually, we do land him for $11. I think it's pretty good value. So, okay, we have got our flex position taken care of. Malik Neighbors at $11. So now, starting quarterback, starting tight end, I'm going to pass on Alvin Kamara. Too much money there. Christian Watson, I'm just completely passing on. I have zero interest in him. Now it's our turn to nominate somebody. Let's nominate Travis Kelce and get this process going for the tight ends. I'm completely out on Travis Kelce at this price. I think with the age, with the value of how he's being looked at as the potential tight end one, I'll look elsewhere, right? Devonta Smith, I think, again, we're pretty much out on these wide receivers in the 20s right now. We're going to look at low teens from this point in time. That's why I'm happy we got Malik Neighbors for $11, right? Sam Laporta is going to go for about probably low to mid 30s. So let's see if I'm right about that. Yep, right around $30. Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to take him for $22. Here, Anthony Richardson, I'm not the biggest Anthony Richardson believer, so I'm going to pass on him even if it's for just $10. Javonte Williams, we're passing on him. Again, just to remind you, for our roster, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, and Malik Neighbors. So, is it crazy that we can have this type of roster in a snake draft? I mean, there's no chance you can draft Jahmyr, Bijan, and Garrett Wilson. That just wouldn't happen. So that's where the auction draft process makes this possible. And then Jalen Waddle's probably like a third round selection. Malik Neighbors, a fifth round selection. So it evens out to some extent. Stephon Diggs, I'm going to pass on. We need some tight ends. George Pickens is for $10 as somebody that I really like. So I'm going to add him. He's a bench piece, whatever. But I think it's a really good value pick. So I've got $25 left to make some magic happen. We're going to need some help, right? But we're going to look at, let's see, Amari Cooper, somebody that I think is, a little bit still left in terms of what he can go for, but not necessarily interested in. Keenan Allen, we will pass on. DeAndre Hopkins will pass on. Najee Harris, we can pass on. So we're slowly but surely getting to a winding down point. Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, pass on. You're gonna see a dip in our bench talent at a certain point. Here, I really like Christian Kirk, but for $8, a little bit too expensive for my blood. T. Higgins, passing. Rashad White, we can't even afford him. James Conner, I'm okay. I'm looking. Jalen Warren, we're going to pass on. I'm curious where James Cook will go. Let's nominate Joe Burrow, another quarterback, right? So I'm going to pass on him for $12. I'm kind of hoping for like CJ Stroud or something like that, but who knows? Jaden Reed, I'm passing on. Ooh, I'll have to pass on James Cook. I was hoping we can land him. Terry McLaurin for $7 is not a bad value, all things considered. But again, we've got $25, so I want to get a decent tight end. That's what's still kind of keeping me at bay here. Like, I'm hoping I can get a Kincaid or an Evan Ingram. That's the goal. Kenneth Walker, we're going to pass on. Jake Ferguson, we're going to pass him for $15. Are you kidding me? Brian Robinson, no. We're not going to double up on the Robinsons. Curtis Samuel, we can pass on. Mark Andrews, not for $20. No, thank you. Aaron Jones, all things considered, not horrible for 19, but a little bit too expensive still. CJ Stroud for $12. Do we do it? Do we do it? No, I think what we're going to have to do is like get an Aaron Rodgers, I'll be honest with you. Dalton Kincaid. Do you want to go with Dalton Kincaid? Are you okay going with Evan Ingram, who could be a little bit more expensive? Oof. All right, let's put our eggs in the Evan Ingram basket. Quarterback, I'll just nominate Dak Prescott. Somebody else can scoop him up. Kyler, okay. But for what it's worth, we're starting to catch up to people in regards to funds, right? Like the person that has the most amount of money is at $41, I believe. So we're at 25. Oh, there's actually somebody at 46. So we're doing okay. David Montgomery just went. Evan Ingram. Oh, it backfired, folks. It backfired. Kincaid went for 14. Ingram's at 15. Oh, I don't want to go with Kyle Pitts, but I think there's such a big drop off. I'm going to buy him for $15, and that's what I meant. Sometimes you just go, for a little bit earlier on one of those players. We're left with $10, the second least amount of money. Kyle Pitts just went. Jonathan Brooks, I mean, we're not going to be able to afford. Kittle, we already have our tight end. Our roster, everything is filled out other than our quarterback. So we're going to do a lot of passing here, right? Like, I kind of want to, fast forward our turn to nominate somebody. Let's just nominate Aaron Rodgers here. I think we can get him pretty cheap, but who knows? But yeah, I'm buying him for $1. Yep, thank you. Perfect. We've got our quarterback. I believe in Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson. I like that stack. Now we just got to get our bench players, and we can finish this thing up. So we only need to add 4 more bench players. And I always say you don't want to leave an auction draft with too much money left. And, I mean, I don't think we're in danger of doing that. Xavier Worthy, no. I'll pass on him. I was kind of hoping I could get Zach Moss. But, again, the max amount of money we can spend now is $6 on a player. So we're not going to be able to land some of these guys that we're hoping for that are still, kind of hidden gems at the later points of the draft. Again, that's the downside of being a little bit over aggressive at the start. So now, again, I'm just going to continue to nominate the most expensive players. In this case, Brock Purdy, just go ahead for $7. I don't care at this point in time. Rashee Rice, too expensive. Okay. Tyjae Spears, too expensive. You're getting the gist of things here, right? So no, TJ Hawkinson for $6, not worth it, especially when he's injured. So Rome Odunze for $2, not the worst value. So let's add him to the squad. Jerome Ford, I wouldn't have minded Jerome Ford, honestly. David Njoku, we can pass on. Gus Edwards will have to pass on. Trey Benson, I don't want to buy him for $5. Jaden Daniels, I've already got my quarterback. No, thank you. And our turn to nominate somebody, we can just nominate Jordan Addison here and then pass it up pretty quickly. And ooh, I should have gotten Ladd McConkey. I probably should have done that. Oh well, Cortland Sutton. No, thank you. Just to remind you of our roster, we need 3 more spots. And then we can call it a day. Tyler Lockett, I'll pass on him. I think he's a little bit too old. Blake Corum. We need some running back depth is what we need. What running backs are left? That is the question. So cheat sheet, running backs. Oof, I mean, Antonio Gibson, like Jaleel McLaughlin, that's probably what you're looking at this point in time. So really hoping that there are not injuries at this point in time to our running backs. Antonio Gibson we'll have to pass on. I mean, I guess we can go for Rico in Dallas, but I think it's going to be Zeke, and I wouldn't be shocked if they had another running back. Caleb Williams, we don't need another quarterback. We can just nominate somebody here. Tua, the next most expensive player. Oh man, did we screw ourselves here? We're going to have to get Tua because nobody else is going to bid on him. It looks like that. Sometimes that happens in these auction drafts, as crazy as that sounds. Let's get Brian Thomas, and then we're just going to get one last player here. Chuba Hubbard, I think, fits the bill, and then that will wrap this up for us. Our roster is complete. Aaron Rodgers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Evan Ingram, Malik Neighbors. I really like our starting roster. And then we do have some talent on the bench. Pickens, Odunze, Brian Thomas, Chuba Hubbard, I think to start off the season is going to be pretty good. So pretty happy about that. And then honestly, that kind of wraps this thing up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let's see if we can kind of go through this to get our draft grade, but I'm curious to see what it'll be. I think it's a solid grade. Like, we don't have the most depth, but I think it's at worst like a B minus. Again, it's a 12-team league. We started out pretty aggressive. I think we did pretty well with our funds management. We only have $1 left, so we only have to wait a couple more picks here, and we will see what our draft grade is. Again, I think it should be at least in the B range, but crazier things have happened. Okay, B minus, 82 out of 100. Let me know your thoughts, right? If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin. We'll do our best to answer any of your questions in the comments, and keep an eye out for future auction draft breakdowns in more videos. In the meantime, we'll see you guys in the future.